Good afternoon, everyone. So today's Torah text and Tuesday challenge was the following. A person rented an apartment in Jerusalem over the summer and $1,000 for renting, for utilities. About a week or so later, after the end of the contract, the owner of the apartment comes in and realized that the air conditioning was left on. And the assumption is, of course, that the person who rented it prior never shut off the air conditioning. So when it comes to the 10 days the apartment is rented for, they need to pay. It is included in, it's considered normal in the summer in Jerusalem to, when you rent something and utilities are included, it is considered normal to turn on the air conditioning. Right? Why not they turned on the air conditioning in January? That would be considered abnormal and that would be problematic. But considering that using air conditioning in the summer is something which is normal and understood, and it is a fair use and it's not misuse of the person's property, therefore it's clearly included in the rental agreement. However, what about these 10 days that the air conditioning was running, cooling an empty apartment? Now, you could argue that in many cases we do run air conditioning units even though no one's there, just so that it doesn't get overly hot and stuffy. You might argue that if you're going to come back at night, right? Some people will not say, they won't. For example, can't shut off your heating even if you travel for 3 weeks in December, because you're going to come back and your pipe's going to be burst and you're going to have a flood. It's going to be a disaster. So you can't shut off your heating. You might change it from 73 to 70 or to 68, but you got to keep some type of heating going. Air conditioning is a little bit different. There's minimal damage if you don't have air conditioning on at all. Maybe you get some mold of some sort, but even just for 10 days, that shouldn't be a problem. Therefore, since the person was negligent and did not shut it off, the question is that considered indirect damage? We know that indirect damage a person does not pay. Is this considered direct damage and a direct expense that the renter wasted the person's electricity and now needs to compensate the owner? The answer appears to be yes, it is, that the renter should have been more careful and more diligent when he or she left the condo, the apartment. They needed to make sure that the lights are off, the air conditioning was off, unless stipulated by the owner, who might say leave one light on for security reasons or set the air conditioning. Otherwise, you assume that no one would want these things on because especially in Israel, electricity is a lot more expensive than it is here. We would assume the person would want it off, the person would not want it to go, and therefore the person who rented it would need to compensate the owner for those 10 days that it was left running with no one actually using the unit itself. Maybe you could deduct the value because now the guy walked into his unit 10 days later and it was like nicely air conditioned, and maybe he wouldn't have minded having it go on for half hour, an hour or two prior, so he walks into a room. That's okay, with the exception of that, whatever exactly, and calculate that amount, the person who rented it would be responsible to compensate. Have a terrific afternoon.